Hey guys, it's Wednesday. It's Hump Day Update Day. Yesterday on T, I talked about new construction and the trials and tribulations of building a house in 2021 and still 2022. And I just want to talk through what we've experienced, what we've learned in the last year. And then I'm going to talk to you about the pros and cons of buying existing versus building. And so let's get to it. So yesterday I mentioned several specific things that are affecting builders directly and then therefore new construction buyers. And there's a couple of different ways to think about builders. You've got your big, like major developer builders where you walk into a model home in a neighborhood where they're cutting new streets and they have, 10 floor plans that you can pick through, each with 4 options, each with, and when I say options, like you can add a bonus room or make the downstairs office a bedroom or add a 3rd floor or make have specific changes to the master, things like that are options. And then with your finishes, where you would normally go to the design center and have a bunch of options to choose from, a bunch of the builders have gotten away from that. And now you have packages that you buy. So, if it's the farmhouse package or the modern package or whatever they call them, and it's, your cabinet colors, your granite colors, and your flooring, the different types of flooring, paint, etc., all of that. And then you have your truly custom builders too, right? Where you find a piece of land, maybe raw land, maybe the builder has developed it some or somebody's developed it some, and you build, a truly custom home. So those are the two different ways to kind of look at new construction. And what has been affecting them, whether they're the big builders or the smaller builder that builds, just a handful of houses a year, is like major supply chain issues. So what we've experienced, first of all, we've had a historically high demand for homes. People, and unless you've been living under a rock and or haven't been following along with us for a while, that this has been a crazy real estate market. Lots more people are buying houses. And without as many houses to buy, it has created, increase in prices and some would argue inflation. And anyway, we've just got this crazy housing market. So couple that with the fact that we are all living through a pandemic, which has caused, factory closures. So, the guy that makes the little turn crank that goes in the thing gets COVID, their whole line is shut down. And now there's just a domino effect to that. You've got, not enough people unloading these boats at ports. And so these boats are sitting out with all of our stuff on it, mostly appliances and, anything that's made overseas. You've got transportation delays. Labor shortages have caused massive permitting delays. And you have to permit a house. Somebody has to be double checking to make sure they're building a good house, right? And then, let's see what else. Historically, I've made notes. I usually make notes. Extreme weather conditions have also affected some of the ability to make stuff. Resin was one thing that specifically was named, but it's also just affected people's ability to go to work. So all of these things have led to huge delays. I would say probably the labor piece being one of the biggest ones. But then specifically, we've seen windows are taking forever to come in, appliances. You've got garage doors, paint. Paint is so much more expensive than it used to be. I even heard that, certain light fixtures and hardware for doors. So, if you're wanting a specific light fixture and you're not gonna be able to get it for 6 months, those things can delay things too. Okay. I have to film this in 5-minute increments. So, and then I'll smush it all together for YouTube, to upload to YouTube. Okay, so we were talking about specific things that were delaying. You cannot get a certificate of occupancy on a house that doesn't have windows. A garage door maybe would be arguable. You could probably definitely get a CO without a garage door, I would think, because not every house has a garage door. But anyway, I digress. I don't know the ins and outs of all of that. But in order to be able to physically move in, there are certain things that have to be in a house in order to get what's called a CO, or a certificate of occupancy. So when you've got delay after delay after delay, and I mean, it's really beyond anyone's control, right? So as stressful as it is and as angry as you get, it's hard to blame anybody specifically. Now, we do have one couple in particular that is still waiting on their house. Fingers crossed they're closing tomorrow. And theirs seems to be kind of a combination of failure by the builder's management. They've had a ton of turnover with personnel, coupled with all of these things beyond their control, coupled with a county that has made it very difficult to pass inspection because there's so many days between and just not that many inspectors. So they're, I think their original close date was mid-June, and it's January 12th. So, yeah, and they had a baby. So, anyway, listen, when I say learned expertise, we don't come into every situation knowing everything. I've talked about this before, that we learn something new from every closing. And we're not perfect. We're human. We make mistakes. We try and do right by our clients when it's on us, or at least educate it. But you should certainly know that we are taking that, learning from it, and carrying it with the next buyer. So that's why when I said on Tuesday Tea, don't be scared of this whole process, because we can walk you through it. But we are absolutely going to set the expectation. I mean, anytime I have a buyer that wants new construction, they're hearing these stories. They're hearing, how hard it is to get everything, how hard it is for anybody to make dates because of these supply chain issues, because of these permitting issues. The home building process, certainly when you're talking about custom homes too, has always been really stressful. So now, with the pandemic and all that's caused, it's even more stressful. All right, so we've talked about that. We've talked about supply chain issues, the specific things. We've talked about, all of the bad stuff. Let's talk a little bit about comparing buying an existing home and building a new home. So depending on if it's custom or like a big developer builder where you have some, you're building a brand new house, but you have some limitations with your customization. You can argue that building is much more flexible. You can pick the ideal floor plan, the layout of that floor plan, the colors and design and all of that. You can pick all of that, but that comes at a price. Brand new comes at a price. But so it is more expensive, but it is all new, right? So you're less likely to have problems. And if you do, then they're probably warranted. You certainly have your builder's warranty for a year. And then you have, extended structural warranties, roof warranties, your major systems, appliances, HVAC, hot water heater, things like that all come with warranties as well. So if anything goes wrong right there in the beginning, you just call up a company and they have to make it right. Whereas when you buy existing, you are fixing it yourself, coming out of pocket. Even if you get a 1-year home warranty from the seller, those are not blank checks by any means. But you do, at least with new construction, if they told you that this HVAC system is not going to break for 5 years, they're going to come fix it or replace it. So that's one of the benefits of new construction versus buying an existing home. Another thing to think about, and I touched on this just a second ago with regard to buying existing versus building new, is when you think about floor plan layout. more than likely you're going to have to make some concessions if you buy existing. When we bought this house now, I really wanted to keep a master down. And I don't know why. To me, that's just the most timeless house, because at some point you don't need or want to be right across the hall from your kids. So I really, really wanted that. That was on one of my main things I wanted. But it ended up not being a deal breaker. The deal breakers were we had to stay in McCallie. My kids are so attached to this neighborhood, as are we. I really wanted a side entry garage. And if not a side entry, I wanted it to be really deep because my kids play outside a lot. They throw the baseball, they play basketball. So I wanted the driveway to be this big flat space. So side entry garage just gives you more space because it can go the full length of the house. Think about a front entry garage. Your driveway can only come to the front of the house. With side entry, it can go all the way to the back. So you just get more driveway. And the front of your house isn't a garage door. And I like that too. That's why the alley houses, appealed to me in the beginning. What else did I want? I wanted a bunch of other stuff. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. I had to give up master down. There were deal breaker things that I was not willing to give up. The driveway was one of them. When thinking about EJ starting to drive one day and Grady, I didn't want to have to jockey in and out for position for car space. Backyard was really important to us, although, we have put a pool in now, but my kids don't ever go in the backyard other than now to go into the pool. I had to put a pool in just to get them into the backyard. Kids like concrete. Put that in your pocket. When you start buying a house and you think you got to have this big, massive backyard, your kids like concrete. I'll bet you anything. I know that there are a bunch of y'all nodding your heads. I don't know how many people are going to watch this, but some of y'all nodding your heads are agreeing that, yeah, I got this great backyard and my kids are always in the driveway or in the street. They like concrete. Anyway, wheels work better on concrete, I'm sure is what it is. So when you buy existing, you're probably more than likely going to have to make some concessions on that. Probably with some needed updates. Doubtful the kitchen looks exactly how you wanted it. Doubtful the bathrooms look exactly how you wanted it. Paint color, carpet, age of the HVAC, all of that are things to consider. But what I tell people is, listen, if you love the neighborhood, you love the lot, the floor plan works for you, all of those other things can be changed short of knocking down walls, right? I'm not going to show you my kitchen right now because it's really messy, but we painted the cabinets, we replaced the countertops. We've done a bunch of stuff to this house, and we loved this house when we bought it, but now we love it even more because, every day we are customizing it for our needs and our likes. And then certainly for changing trends and, wanting our house to look updated, right? If and when we ever should have to sell it. But then you have to think about, major expenses. Like we're going to have to do windows pretty soon. I'm starting to research what all of that entails. We're getting ready to do some window replacements at Stardust, the flip at Stardust, but I've never been down that road, and this needs to be a weekly tea. I need to teach people about windows because especially here in McCallie, I know it's coming up. People are going to have to start doing that. Like when? Is it 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? I don't know. So I will do some research, and we'll definitely make that a subject of Hump Day Update one day. But those are things to think about when you buy existing. Certainly, the older a house is, the less energy efficient it is. So your power bill may be higher than it would in a new construction house. Trusting, what the materials are made of. If you buy in Winfield, you might have polybutylene pipes, which have and with good reason, have a very bad reputation, or, what else? Asbestos, we don't use that anymore, but that used to be in a lot of building materials. That's something, as y'all know, I'm dealing with in Stardust. Anyway, I could go on and on and on, but just know that's something else when you don't build brand new that you have to think about. But when you are buying existing, it does tend to be less expensive than building. New construction houses do tend to be more expensive than an existing home, all things being equal. mostly because it's brand new. New construction does tend to pull a higher price per square foot. I would argue an updated house in an established neighborhood may be able to get an even higher price per square foot, all things being equal, being able to compare true apples to apples. Same location, same school districts, same shopping centers, all of that, commutes, things like that. You could argue that an updated house pulls a higher price per square foot. But for the most part, new construction is more expensive than buying existing. And a big thing that people fail to think about, and what you really have to think about in 2022, is the cost of time. I think about people that decided to buy in 2020 or 2021, towards the beginning of 2021 into 2020. I've talked about that on Hump Day Update on T. The average homeowner, their equity increased by $50,000 this year. That's a lot of money. So if you put a check down on a house in January and you don't move in until November, because that's how long it took them to build the house, you've kind of given up $50,000, right? Am I thinking about that correctly? Not to mention this year, especially with interest rates going up, your buying power is diminishing too. So if you lock in a $600,000 house now at 3.25%, and by the end of the year, when you close, or close to when you close, they're at 3.75%, your monthly payment is going to be higher, which reduces, that's your monthly budget with your family. And so that reduces your buying power as well, and your spending ability. So if you're buying new construction developer, so the builder is paying to build the house, and then they're going to hand it over to you at closing. And that's when you have to bring a loan or cash or however you're buying the house. But if it's a lender, you're going to want to make sure that you're locking your rate in now. So you're definitely going to want to go with a lender that will do a 12-month rate lock, because interest rates, well, they did last week, but for sure going up some more by the end of the year. Nobody knows if something else is going to happen that's going to shut down everything and make everything go crazy. But just based off the information we have today, I feel confident they're going to be in the high threes by the end of the year. I think about 3.75 just based off of everything that I've been reading. So the loans are a little bit more difficult. Certainly with custom new construction loans, a construction loan is very different from using a loan to buy a brand new house when the developer is paying to build the house. You're borrowing money to give to the builder to build the house through stages. And it is just a much more difficult process. It is a smaller basket of lenders that do those types of loans. Something else too is just unexpected costs. Like every day things are getting more and more expensive. So maybe you have $10,000 budgeted for tile, and then the price of tile goes up. Now the builder's saying, I need $13,000 for the tile. So all of those things start to add up. And now this $600,000 house that you built is actually $650,000. So all of those things. Time is huge. We've talked about the delays that are currently happening with new construction. So you are not only delayed because you decided to build, but now you're delayed even more because of what's happening in our world. I was going to say country, but it's really the whole world. And it's very stressful. Certainly with a true custom builder, the sky's the limit on picking. I mean, if you have a budget for carpet, that's not 4 options of colors to pick from. It's probably 400 or 4,000. And that's tough, especially when you and your spouse or your partner, or whoever you're building the house with, don't necessarily agree. Another simple pro to buying existing versus building is just the landscaping. When you buy an existing house, certainly anything that's 10 years or older, The landscaping has had a chance to really establish itself. You've got, probably true privacy landscaping in, and pretty grass, and, flowers and things that come back year after year. And, the bushes aren't these little tiny things in the front. So that's just something else to think about. I have had lots of buyers that established landscaping was really important to them. A lot of them say, I don't want one of those neighborhoods where they've taken down all the trees. I want a neighborhood with trees. And, there's not a ton of those. So that's actually very helpful when somebody says that, because then it helps narrow down their search a little bit. Land prep can be expensive if you're buying raw land. You got to perk it. You got to maybe put in a septic and well system, or, pull in the county systems into the land. You got to clear trees and brush. You got to make sure that water is going to run off properly. So those are things to think about too. You don't really deal with those with a developer, but you have to be mindful of them as you're building. You have to pay attention to those things. And, if you notice water is standing, during a couple of your walkthroughs, then you definitely want to get the builder to fix that before you close. So that brings me to another point too, and Caitlin brought it up today. We've mentioned this before. When you buy new construction with Lewis and Kirk, we do include an inspection. You can do a pre-drywall inspection, or you can do a final inspection right before you close. That's what most of our clients pick, because it just helps you see all those things that may or may not be covered under warranty that you can get fixed. And then we also offer an 11-month one. And so if you're under the builder's, the joys of being at home with my dogs. Somebody just delivered a package, and they have to tell me and the whole wide world by barking. Anyway, I don't even remember. I literally don't remember what I was just saying. That's awful. Okay, hopefully I'll come back to it. But we were talking about, cost of building versus buying existing. We've talked about less flexibility with floor plan when you buy existing, energy efficiency, maintenance of older systems. Looking for a house can be stressful. It certainly has been the last year for buyers. There's so much competition and very little inventory. So finding a house that you want to write an offer on is a challenge. You have to drop everything and go look at houses the minute they are on the market, right? Because you can't wait, or you won't even get an opportunity to make an offer. And then let's say you want to make an offer, there's no chance that your offer will even be accepted. Plus you're having to, pull out all the stops to win the offer. So those things are really stressful too. You don't deal with that with new construction. A lot of the bigger developers have had to do lotteries because there has been so much demand for lots that you have had a little bit more competition with regard to getting a lot, but it's certainly not been like in the existing housing market with regard to just the competition level. There are a few exceptions to that. I heard there were buyers hiring people to sit just to be first in line to get the next phase of lots, to get a check down on the next phase of lots. So that's something to think about. We've talked about the cost of time. Certainly the pros of building: less time for waiting for new construction. It's usually less expensive. You usually get in a more developed area. Once an area is developed, there's no room for somebody to build a big neighborhood again. So if you're, wanting a specific area, new construction may not even be an option. If you want a specific elementary school, sometimes there's not new construction feeding into that elementary school. Mature landscaping we've talked about, but customization with renovations is always there too. And I talked about this a few minutes ago, but if all of those other things, you like the lot, you like the location in the neighborhood, you like the school, if all of those things add up and it's a floor plan that you can make work, then you can update bathrooms and kitchens and things like that over time. Certainly if they're in good condition, just because they're dated. And that, that was something Aaron and I were willing to take on, because there was so much that was really nice about this house, and it all worked. It's not like it was a black oven, which we didn't love, but it worked. It was, burner, a stove with eye burners, but it worked. It cooked our food. We love the gas that we have now, but it was fine for a couple of years while we saved up to be able to do our kitchen. So those are things that we make sure our buyers are thinking about when they say, nope, I want new construction. We make sure that they know that they're limiting themselves. They're probably costing themselves more money, and they are, going to have to wait to move in. So they're probably going to pay rent, or they're going to have to wait to sell, to time all of that out. That's difficult too, because sometimes one of the things this precious couple dealt with too is they made us put the house on the market. They said, you've at least got to be incoming soon by X date. So we put their house on the market. Just like everything else this year, we got so much demand, so many offers. Luckily, they had a really sweet buyer that was willing to let them stay there months after closing, but they did eventually have to move out. So they've been kind of homeless for a couple of months now. I mean, they're not totally homeless, but not in the true meaning of the word, but they have had to live with family and, make a lot of exceptions, tell a lot of visitors, especially over the holidays, sorry, but you're not going to be able to come after all and stay in our big, brand new, beautiful new construction house. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. I hope that helped. I'm certainly looking at the risks and rewards with regard to building or buying an existing house. Hopefully you've seen the benefit of working with somebody that's been through it, that can advise you. Knowledge is power. So if you know all of these risks and rewards, why is that so hard to say, going into it, then you can really make an informed decision and do what's best for you and your family. A lot of times that answer is new construction. It just is. There just isn't anything else that appeals to you, or that you have to have that customization of a new house, or maybe the neighborhood that you do want and love, there aren't any existing homes and there's only new construction left to buy. So if that's the case, we will walk you through it hand in hand. We'll be there with you every step of the way. We'll definitely provide that inspection for you and lots of counsel, and then the best closing gift on closing day. Anyway, thanks for sticking around with this really long-winded hump day update. I'm going to simplify it and synopsize it on stories. So if anybody made it through, probably just my mom and my husband. Thanks for sticking around. Hope you learned something.